after the events of Prototype 1, and you play a new protagonist called Sergeant James Heller, who has come back from the war in the Middle East to discover that the city that he loved has now been decimated by this viral outbreak, and he completely blames Alex Mercer for causing both damage to his city and for taking away his family, basically in the past. So our key focus this time, as compared to the first game, is to make the story epic but simple and well told. So at any point in the story you understand what your objective really is. So we've completely overhauled the way the player gets open world side quests and missions. So rather than having a rather complex sort of web interface, which we call Web of Intrigue, we've now upgraded that and it's now called Blacknet. And so Heller basically uses Blacknet and taps into this secured encrypted network that's used by the evil Blackwatch forces. He actually uses that and finds the Blacknet trucks that are dotted around New York Zero, our new open world world. He actually finds these Blackwatch trucks to actually tap in and get these side quests, these missions. We want players in this second game to really drive the narrative themselves and to drive their own character progress themselves, rather than Alex Mercer, who in the first game, was obviously kicking all kinds of ass, but would basically take orders from his sister and his ex-girlfriend. So it wasn't quite a power fantasy. So with Heller, this guy is super motivated, loves his powers, he embraces his powers, and so it's a giant difference from 1 to 2 with the kind of protagonist you'll be controlling for this second game. Yeah, well, one of the cool powers we showed off today at the event was what we call the biobomb. So James Heller has a whole slew of new powers and abilities that Alex Mercer doesn't have. He also has some of the hottest powers from Alex Mercer. The biobomb is one of my favorites. What it lets you do is it lets you stealthily infect anyone near you, preferably a Blackwatch soldier. And once you infect them very quietly, they begin to convulse and begin to turn into a human living bomb. So you can then pick them up and throw them, and maybe even drop kick wherever you want them to go to then cause a distraction. So it's an example of the kind of powers we're looking to introduce to the game that lets gamers have more tactical abilities, to approach problems in multiple ways, not just one way. So that's one of my personal favorites. So the Lairs are a new feature of Prototype 2. Think of a lair as like an underground treasure chest, and they're dotted around each of the 3 different zones of New York Zero. And so as the player progresses through, they may stumble upon a lair, and what's inside there is always messy. It's always going to be a battle. That's basically where the infected are hatching, and also hatching new creatures as well. So if you get down there, you can actually upgrade your abilities, and when you upgrade your abilities, you put points into, say, Blade Arm or Whip Fist, you'll actually see a visual change as you put points in. So the Lairs are one of the new features where we want to really make sure the open world content is rich and compelling. So we can't wait for gamers to actually see inside these things. We have a whole new way of upgrading your actual arm powers, and as I mentioned before, once you earn XP, you can find favorites, and as you power them up, you'll see a visual change from stage to stage. There's another cool new aspect that we've got is kind of similar to the Fallout 3 perk system, is we have what we call mutations. And mutations are sort of customized changes to various aspects of your character, and you'll have a number of slots. And so it's up to the player as they're earning these mutations, and maybe some are earned from Lairs. As they earn these mutations, they can customize what kind of combination works best. And so the goal is that your prototype, your James Heller, will be different from your neighbor's or best friend's James Heller. So just giving gamers another reason to try experiment and even play through the main game again and again. So Alex Mercer was also a really powerful character. I think a key learning for Radical, and just scouring the fan feedback, scouring the reviews, doing focus testing. A key piece of feedback that we've taken to heart is that you really have to manage the kind of powers, how many powers you give to the player at once. If you give them the kitchen sink, well, what does that mean exactly? It can just be overwhelming. And you also need to make sure that each power has a weakness, has a pro and a con. and also which enemies have specific weaknesses to which powers. And so there's a whole level of thinking and an approach that we're heavily embracing on Prototype 2, so that there's actually a well thought out rationale. Is this weapon a slashing power, or is it a bludgeoning power? Does it work best against organic creatures or against military vehicles? So that level of approach is what we're really excited for Prototype 2 going forward. So we have 3 zones in our open world space. It's the space players have never been to before, which we call New York Zero. And so there are 3 zones. There's the red zone, which is pretty much, a complete viral nightmare. I mean, the military send in squads and they basically get annihilated. We have the yellow zone, which is basically a heavily quarantined zone. It's just a living hell. I mean, people are wandering around dying to get out of there, or just dying, and trying to get to the green zone. The green zone is basically like, even if you think of a green zone today, like heavily militarized. Most of the virus is being contained, but there are outbreaks. And so through the story, we push the players through zone to zone to zone. And it also, for us at Radical, lets us make sure that each zone has its own unique feel, its own civilians, its own atmosphere, audio, its own sort of feeling of threat. And you always know which zone you're in. I think with Prototype 1, we tended to have a tough time differentiating. We had multiple times of day. We had a giant area. We've got a giant area again this time, but this time the team are really focusing on to make sure that each zone has its own flavor, theme, and gameplay challenges. So that's the main difference. So we want to make sure that all of our fans, whether it's on PC, Xbox, PS3, have the best possible version. And the PC, yes, comes with some natural advantages. I think over the next few months, as we move from pre-alpha further into development, we'll start to see the kind of features, and we'll be able to talk about the kind of features that I think PC gamers will expect to see. Every time you pick up the controller, something crazy happens. Like, people around you are like, what did you just do? So that's, for us, the fun of working on the game. Is there something in the DNA of the product that people want to see, they want to play? So I think if I had to name it, probably a firebomb and throwing guys through chocolate windshields.
Right.
So all we can say right now is the game is out in 2012, and it's on all formats: PC, PS3, Xbox 360, and we'll be at E3, and so stay tuned for more details. We can't wait to show gamers more of the game.